Good morning. Out here at a beautiful location here local to us, about to pour a foundation.
Yeah, we're on Big Rock Lake. What is it?
Hallsville, Texas.
Hallsville, Texas. We just want to share some thoughts with you today on what we're doing out here and why we put this type of application in this lot, and some of the things that go along with it that can really help some people out down the road.
Yeah, this is a neat one to see because, you know, it's elevated in the back, so we've got
right, we got retaining walls around pretty much all three sides, a little bit in the front. We'll kind of go through it with you and show you. Just a really cool setup, especially if if you're working with a smaller lot, or if you got to stay off your property lines. This is a really cool setup that can help you maximize your square footage of your home and still stay within those boundaries.
Yeah, let's check it out.
All right,
let's go. Where do we start?
Don't trip and fall.
Yeah.
Jacob, let's talk about this fireplace footing here.
Okay, so the big thing with fireplace pits is what we usually call them, and basically it's just a huge concrete footer that we place underneath that fireplace for weight. If you do anything from even from a regular zero clearance fireplace all the way up until a full masonry rock fireplace, you can create a lot of weight right here. So typically you want to get at least a good 30 to 36 inch depth on it, and always be at least as wide as the actual fireplace.
If not a little wider.
If not, yeah, a little bit wider is okay. You just don't want to come less than your width and length on it, because that's what really supports that fireplace over time, keeps it from leaning and or sinking or doing anything like that, or even potentially cracking your main slab. This is a super important thing that you really need to incorporate into your slabs, just because of the fact of how much weight that fireplace can create, and just for longevity too. So,
yeah, more is better.
More is better. It never hurts to go a little bit bigger, like you said, or a little bit deeper, but you need to stay at least with your minimums on everything, like we just talked about. Minimum length.
I was just going to say, foundation is everything. I mean, that's why we're out here today. The lengths that you guys have gone through to get this thing set up correctly, and the fireplace footer is no different.
It's very important for any foundation setup. It's very important.
So how long have y'all been working on this to get to this point?
I believe probably altogether, this is probably at least I'd say a 4 to 6 week project, with everything we're going to show you today, but at least a month plus, I would say.
Okay.
No, you're right about that. It's amazing. We go to all these different job sites, and before any of this is here, your fall never looks like it's going to be that bad until you start shooting grades and pulling strings, and you see.
It's always double what you think.
Yeah, I've always told customers the same thing. You'll think it'll be 2 or 3 foot. It could be 5 to 6 foot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All said and done.
So here we are on the downhill side.
Jacob, you want to talk about this retaining wall and how we got to this point here and why?
Right. So typically on a lot like this, and we'll get more in depth into that in a minute, but you got two options here. You've got concrete like we've done here, basically a retaining wall, or you can do what we call a pier and beam setup too. But here where you've got a pretty good size ditch that's going to have a lot of drainage, we really didn't want to get into the wood aspect. We wanted something to be super permanent. Didn't have to worry about washouts, didn't have to worry about this ever getting too much water through there or anything like that. So that's one of the big reasons we went with a concrete. And just the fact of not ever having to worry about seepage or anything like that, getting a lot of moisture under the house, because this is a type of lot that where if you have a continued amount of water here, you can end up with some problems that would not be really, it wouldn't be
easy to fix.
Yeah, it wouldn't be easy to fix, and it's just a better application for something like this. Now, just to give you an idea of what we did here to give it strength and stability, these are 10-inch wide concrete walls.
10 inches thick.
10 inches thick,
Yeah.
excuse me. Yes, they're 10 inches thick, and they sit down below them. You can't see it, but they have what we call a spread footer underneath them, and it's usually 4 or 5 inches thick, but it's 4 foot wide. And what that does is that keeps that wall from tipping in any way. And you know, that'll keep this thing up here and give it strength and stability from now on.
So under this retaining wall, you've got another concrete slab that's 3 to 4 feet wide, you said?
Yes, yes.
Down to undisturbed soil.
And in undisturbed soil, that's correct. Yeah, there's even on a couple of these lower corners, just for, you know, just for stability and longevity, we put in a couple of piers here and there. They wasn't absolutely necessary, but it's something we felt it was needed. So along with that and that spread footer, which is basically, like Josh said, another mini slab basically underneath these walls, that's what's going to make this thing stay here from now on.
Explain to them what a pier is, because some folks might not know what a pier is.
Okay, so your typical pier, and we're talking about concrete piers, just to clarify. Pier is basically just usually starts out at a 12-inch diameter, but it's a round cylinder, if you can imagine, going into the ground that's full of concrete. So, you know, most of these go, you know, they're usually about 12 inches in diameter, and you'll at least go 6 to 8 foot into the ground. So it's basically like driving a concrete post down there.
Yeah, giant fingers underneath the foundation to help hold it in place.
Yeah.
With having this much fill, it's almost necessary every time.
Absolutely, because you're putting a lot of pressure on the walls when you come back and compact. Like we did here with fill dirt, we had to fill this thing back in, and you've got to have a lot of strength on these walls to make sure these things don't go anywhere.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you brought up, because we're on the downhill side, you can't see, but this is not hollow on the inside.
Correct.
This is full of fill dirt.
Correct, yes. We brought in select fill, and basically after these walls were built, we brought in select fill and backfilled the entire foundation. And another important thing when you are backfilling, especially something 5-6 foot tall like this, you got to do it in lifts and compact it properly, because then you
lifts are smaller levels.
Right, correct. You know, typically 8 inches or so at a time. That's the amount of dirt you need to put in, and you can compact it in many different ways. In this application, we done actually like a roll skid compactor, a mini compactor that actually vibrates, and that's why we compacted this one. But, yep.
So yeah, there's a lot that goes into properly compacting soil and a foundation of this nature.
Yes, a lot. Like I said, we've been out here for several weeks, and you know, you got to step by step. You can't get ahead of yourself on something like this.
Yeah, especially when you're at a lake lot or something like this, you're going to always have some fall, more than likely.
Absolutely,
and so just kind of know what your fall is going to be, know what you're getting into.
Right, and something also to remember, this isn't the foundation you have to do, but we felt like this was the best foundation for this lot, for this house.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so there are a lot of different types of foundations, a lot of different preferred foundations around the country, but I think we can all agree a concrete foundation, full of dirt and compacted properly is a good application for almost any location.
Absolutely.
Robert, why don't you tell a little bit about why we didn't just do a full tapered pad right here?
Mainly because of the fall and the drainage. This lot has drainage down both sides.
And the width of the lot too, correct?
Yeah, and the width of the lot. So whenever you're planning your house, whatever size house that you want, try to know what size that your lot is. A lot of people design a house that's like this, and then they get a lake lot that's like this, and it won't fit. So always keep that in mind when you go to your design phase.
Yeah, it's got to literally fit within the boundaries, but also setbacks.
Yeah, this was almost pushing the boundaries.
Correct.
It was
yes.
There wasn't. We actually had to move the garage over some, didn't we?
Correct. Yeah.
Make that work.
Yeah. So we was fighting literally between the ditches on this one, and you know, keep in mind too that you'll have a boundary, your property line, but you're always going to have to, depending on where you're at, code's going to tell you to stay 10, 15, 20, depending on where you're at,
cushion
off that property line. So you got to take that in consideration too. You never want to get too close and create basically a non-accessible backyard. You want to keep that in mind too. So in this application, we've got plenty of road. Even though we got a ditch, we're actually going to make a road on this side of this house to be able to access back here. Otherwise, you'd be driving in a ditch on the other side.
Gotcha. And that's a good point, you know, that both you guys made, but it's a good idea if you can to pick a plan that fits in the lot. You know, there's multiple ways to do it. I mean, you can pick a house before you have the land and decide, hey, we're going to do what it takes to get this house, no matter what land we're going to find a piece of land that the house will fit on.
Absolutely.
But more often than not, I think that people find the land first, and then you kind of need to tailor the house to that land.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've seen some issues over the years with, you know, having to come back in after somebody's, you know, picked a house, and you know, I've been asked to actually go, hey, go check my lot. Like, I don't know if this house will fit. And, you know, I've had some applications where I've had to sadly tell people, I'm sorry, you need to get a different plan, or cut the one down you have. You know, there's different ways of doing that too, but it's just something you really need to keep in mind with your new home.
Yeah, definitely. Let's take a walk and see what it looks like on the other side.
Let's go.
All right.
So here we are on the downhill side, and we wanted to take a minute to show you where the septic is going to come out, and it's 99% of the time going to come out on the downhill side.
Yep, so this is your septic here. Jacob, whereabouts the septic tank going to be?
So that's a great point to bring up, because that's also something that your plumber or whoever's roughing in your plumbing and your slab, they're really going to want to get with you and say, okay, you know, on your property, especially like we're working with a tighter lot here, where do you want your septic, or what would be ideal? And that's going to play a major role into where this septic, this trunk line comes out of this slab. So in this case, we wanted to get away from your major everyday functions, right? So we're going to put it on this lower back side of this house. And basically we basically made a bigger hole here for this trunk line to come out, just due to the fact that we can turn it and switch it any which way we want to, and it doesn't have to go straight to a certain location. But this is something you definitely want to be thinking about once you get your forms up, or you pick where your house is going to go. That's something, one of the main utilities you need to be thinking about, because it can usually only go in certain spots depending on where you're building. Trees, lake location, whatever, you know, whatever's going into that, you know, where you're going to be building.
Is this going to be aerobic?
Yes, okay. This will be aerobic.
So yeah. we can put the tanks here, and then it can be pumped to the.
Yeah, right. It can be pumped anywhere. You know, I believe, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your first sprinkler's got to be at least 30 feet from your tanks, and you can go in any direction you want to, basically, because it's going to pump to them sprinklers no matter where they're at. So you can get them away from the house down in a ditch is most likely what we'll do on this application. I haven't got exact specs from our customer yet, but this is going to be something like that. Okay.
And if you're not in the city limits, you can just have a regular septic tank and just go back to traditional.
You can, as long as you're away from bodies of water. If you're on a lake like this, it's mandatory by the state of Texas that you have to have, or by the county, or whoever you're dealing with, it's most likely going to be mandatory for you to have an aerobic system. Now, like Robert said, if you know, you got 10 or more acres and you got plenty of space, you can do what we call a conventional field line system. They're still a good system, been around for years, nothing wrong with them. But again, it just depends on where you're at and what you're working with.
All right, Jacob, why don't you tell us about these utilities coming in here, and what each one of them is, and any tips for that?
Okay, absolutely. So one of the major points I want to bring up, if you'll notice, most of this, we've got service pipe for your electrical coming into your breaker panel in the home, and we've also got a couple of extra pipes over here. One of them could be for data, internet, cable, whatever you decide to put in the home, and then this one in the middle is literally just an extra just for emergencies. But what I want to point out is that you'll notice that you have a PVC sleeve that this stuff can be slid in and out of if you ever, you know, mainly, you know, it's better applications is for water or gas pipe or anything like that. When you put them in these sleeves and they ever bust or something happened during installation, these things can be easily slid out and replaced, and that's something we're just doing with everything now, just for the same reason. It's just making something where you can actually fix it inside the slab and not have to worry about jacking up concrete or cutting it or anything to fix something later down the road if anything ever does happen.
Preventative maintenance.
Preventative maintenance, absolutely.
Excellent. So this is our electrical and whatnot utilities coming in, and then explain to them a little bit about the drops that we're seeing in the house.
So, you know, most of us, your typical plumbing, you know, toilets, drain pipes, air vent pipes and stuff like that. And of course, we've got all your service and electrical pipes coming up. But something on this house that we like to do, we started doing on this particular plan. This is the Yellow Rose plan. It's modified some, but it's still got that big open gable from front to back. So what that does is, if you have to run something across from the kitchen and living room, you got that big open gable to go across. So what we've done is we put in a couple of conduits from wall to wall, so it'll make it a lot easier if we got to run water or wire or anything like that. We've simply just got a couple of pieces of conduit that runs from wall to wall and makes it super accessible.
So basically, you've just got a couple of extra chases that go across the great room.
Exactly, exactly.
Under instead of over.
It goes under the slab. They're there if you need them, and if the beauty of it is, if you don't need them, you cap them off. They're in the wall if you ever do.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
So is this going to be a PEX house?
Yes. This will be a all full PEX house. Even water supply will be PEX.
True manifold and.
Yeah. Yes, sir. True manifold. Everything will be. I believe we're doing Uponor on this house, which will be the Uponor fittings and everything like that. I'm a big fan. I think that's one of the best applications you can do with PEX pipe.
That's the locking style?
Right, the expandable fittings and stuff like that.
Okay.
All the crimp fittings and all that stuff I have no problem with. That we've been using them for years. Great stuff. That's just something we started going with because we like it. But any PEX application I think is great. We don't really get into copper much anymore, or even underneath slabs. I know a lot of people are still liking to use the copper, but we run direct PEX under the slab up into the house, and of course it has the chase too, so it's super easy if you ever had a problem.
Sleeve too?
It's sleeve too.
Okay.
Yeah, we sleeve it. If you ever have a problem with it, you can jerk it out and put a new piece in.
Another one in.
Yeah.
What's this I'm looking here? Is this going to be like a dropped shower? Is that what this is?
Yes, yeah. So that's you'll notice both of them. We go ahead and drop them. That way we have more options with different kinds of thresholds and stuff like that. And again, the beauty of that is if you don't need it dropped, you can simply fill them in. It's if you're going to do tile or
way easier to fill it in than it is
to cut it out. That's right. Yeah. That's right. It's a lot easier to fill it in than to cut it out.
So
absolutely.
basically, by the time you do your pan here, and we'll probably see this on a later video, but you might be able. This might be just a straight in shower.
Correct. Yeah. Depending on what our customer wants or decides they want, we can still do a threshold, but it can be ADA accessible. It can be just a flush application where you just walk right in there and everything. It's just a gradual drop. So
awesome. All right. Well, I think that's all we're going to cover today. Be sure to stay tuned. We're going to have more of this house later.
Okay, just remember, whatever slab or wherever you're at in the country, make sure you get your foundation engineered to your soil type and your whatever your local standards and codes meet.
Right, because you could have several different types of foundations across the country. I mean, this fits what we're doing here today on this particular piece of land, but get with your local people, get with your concrete guys, like Robert said, your engineers, get what you need for your home on your property. That's the biggest thing, is to make sure that you're doing something that's specific to your house so it'll hold up like it's supposed to.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's all I was going to cover today. I would like to give a shout out to A&C Concrete. They're out of Tyler, Texas. They're the ones that's actually pouring this slab for us. They've done an amazing job, and we just want to let them know how much we appreciate them, and want to let y'all know about them. They do great work.
They've got a ton of work in so far, and it looks really good.
It looks really good. They've been out here busting butt. We've had a few delays here and there, but
which is common.
Yeah, that's construction. But
especially with weather this time of year.
Yeah. Luckily, we thank God we was able to get this video in, because we're supposed to already pour this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but we're super excited to be able to show you what we've got out here, and like Josh said, we'll have some more videos coming to you.
Well, I want to say thank you to Jacob Moss with Moss Construction. He's been in a few videos, but it's always good to get to see you in person.
Yeah, no problem at all.
See this new house coming along the way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Great knowledge.
Thanks. Man, you put two pieces of wood together with Sikaflex. I mean, you're not going to get them apart. I mean, you're going to break the wood.